Some people think bar bouncers just check IDs and break up drunk arguments. But what they don't tell you is that bars are where secrets spill, tempers explode, and violence shows up uninvited. Tonight's story is based on real events from a former bar bouncer. Nights where one wrong move could cost you your life. This is Story Time, and this is what really happens after the drinks start flowing. Turn the lights down and let the story begin.
I worked as a bouncer for almost 6 years, and there's one thing I learned fast. Bars aren't dangerous because of alcohol. They're dangerous because alcohol gives people permission to become who they really are. The bar I worked at sat off a highway exit, tucked between a gas station and a closed-down strip mall. From the outside, it looked harmless. Neon beer signs, pool tables, cheap wings on Wednesdays. But after midnight, it turned into something else entirely. Friday nights were the worst. That night started like any other. Loud music, sticky floors, people already stumbling in by 9:30. I stood near the entrance, arms crossed, watching faces more than IDs. You learn quickly that danger doesn't always look aggressive. Sometimes it looks quiet, too calm, eyes that don't blink when you talk to them. Around 11:45 p.m., a group of 4 guys came in, late 20s, dressed too clean for a dive bar. No smiles, no jokes. One of them kept scanning the room instead of listening when I spoke. I stamped their hands anyway. That was mistake number 1. By midnight, the bar was packed shoulder to shoulder. The bass rattled the walls. Sweat, perfume, and spilled beer hung thick in the air. That's when I noticed the group again, now split up. One near the dartboards, one by the bathrooms. 2 hovering around a woman at the bar who looked uncomfortable. She kept turning her body away. They kept leaning closer. I moved in. "Everything good here?" I asked, keeping my voice calm. One of the guys smiled without warmth. "We're just talking." The woman shook her head slightly. That tiny movement told me everything. "Time to move on," I said. That's when the mood shifted. The smiling guy stepped closer. Too close. "You touching me now?" I hadn't touched him. People like that want witnesses. They want chaos. I signaled to the other bouncer, Mike, across the room. The guy saw it and laughed. "See?" he said loudly. "Now you calling backup?" The crowd started watching. Phones came out. Someone yelled, "Let him talk." That's when the first punch flew. Not from him, from his friend. It caught me on the side of the jaw, hard enough to make my ears ring. Everything exploded at once. Chairs tipped over. People screamed. The woman vanished into the crowd. Mike tackled one guy while I locked arms with the one who hit me. He smelled like vodka and something metallic. Anger, maybe. We crashed into a table. Glass shattered. Someone else jumped in. Another one from their group. I felt hands pulling at my shirt, someone grabbing my neck. Then I heard Mike yell, "Knife!" Time slowed. I saw it flash under the lights. Small blade. Shaky hand. He didn't know how to use it, which made it worse. I backed up fast, heart slamming. Training kicked in. Distance is life. "Drop it," I shouted. He didn't. He lunged. I grabbed his wrist just in time, felt the blade slice my forearm. Not deep, but enough. Adrenaline drowned the pain. Mike slammed into him from the side. The knife hit the floor and skidded under a pool table. Another bouncer dragged the guy away, while someone finally called 911. The bar went silent, except for heavy breathing and the ringing in my ears. Police arrived in under 5 minutes, lights painting the walls red and blue. They cuffed all 4 guys. Turns out, they'd been kicked out of 2 other bars that night for fighting. One had a warrant. Another had a gun in his car. If that knife had landed a few inches differently, I wouldn't be telling this story. After the cops left, the owner handed me a towel for my arm like it was no big deal. Blood soaked through in seconds. "You good?" he asked. I nodded, because that's what bouncers do. At 2:30 a.m., we locked the doors. Music off, lights up. The bar looked wrecked. Broken glass, overturned stools, streaks on the floor. Mike sat next to me on the curb outside, smoking in silence. Same time tomorrow? He finally asked. I laughed, but it sounded hollow. People ask why bouncers seem cold, why we don't smile, why we watch instead of dance. It's because every bar has a moment where fun turns violent, and when it does, we're the wall standing between chaos and everyone else. And sometimes, the wall cracks.
By my 4th year as a bouncer, I stopped believing in quiet nights. Every calm shift was just the bar taking a deep breath before something went wrong. This night was a Saturday, college football weekend. The bar was over capacity before 10 p.m., and management decided to lock the side exits to control traffic. That decision would nearly get someone killed. I didn't like it from the start. Locked exits change people. They don't know it consciously, but something in the brain flips when escape options disappear. Around 11 p.m., a man came in alone, mid-30s, heavy jacket despite the heat. He didn't drink, ordered water, sat in the far corner where cameras didn't quite reach. I clocked him immediately. The problem with being a bouncer long enough is you start trusting patterns, and sometimes patterns are wrong. At 12:30 a.m., the music cut out, power flicker, just for a second. But when the lights came back, the vibe was off. Conversations dropped half a notch. People started looking around instead of at each other. That's when the shouting started near the bathrooms. 2 men were nose to nose. One accused the other of following him. The crowd circled like it always does, phones up, blood hungry. I stepped between them. Outside, both of you. One guy backed down immediately, the other didn't. He stared past me, not at me, through me, like I wasn't the problem. "You locked us in," he said quietly. My stomach tightened. "What?" "All the doors," he said. "They're locked." I turned my head just enough to see Mike trying one of the side exits. He yanked hard. Nothing. That's when panic hit the room. Someone screamed. Another person rushed the door, then another. Within seconds, 30 people were pushing toward the front entrance, shouting to be let out. Crowd panic is louder than music, louder than fights. The DJ killed the sound completely. "Everyone calm down," the manager shouted. Nobody calmed down. The man from the corner stood up, and that's when he pulled the gun. Not high, not waving it. Just enough for people close by to see the grip. The screaming stopped instantly. You could hear ice clink in glasses, someone crying quietly near the bar. "Everyone relax," the man said. "I'm not here for trouble." My heart tried to punch its way out of my chest. Mike whispered, "You see that?" I nodded. The guy near the bathrooms, the one who'd been yelling earlier, recognized him. "That's him," he said loudly. "That's the dude from the parking lot." The man with the gun smiled and pointed it at him. That's when instinct took over. Mike moved left, I moved right. Another bouncer hit the emergency release on the front doors. Fresh air rushed in, and so did chaos. People stampeded. The man with the gun fired once into the ceiling. The sound was deafening. Dust rained down. A woman fell and got trampled before someone dragged her up. Mike tackled the gunman from behind. They slammed into a table, sending bottles exploding everywhere. I dove for the gun as it skidded across the floor. Hands grabbed me. Someone kicked my ribs. Someone else screamed, "He's got it!" I didn't. I barely got my fingers on the grip before another guy snatched it and slid it under the bar. Police sirens wailed outside almost immediately. Someone had already called when the panic started. When officers stormed in, weapons drawn, the bar looked like a war zone. They cuffed the gunman, then the guy he'd pointed it at. Turns out they knew each other. Both had restraining orders. Both had been drinking all night. Both showed up at the same bar by coincidence or fate. The gun was stolen. The exit's violation. Massive fine. The injured woman was taken by ambulance with a broken ankle. When it was over, the owner blamed us for losing control. That was my last night. Because bouncers aren't superheroes. We're human shields standing between alcohol, trauma, and bad decisions. And sometimes, the danger isn't the people, it's the place itself.
By the time this happened, I thought I'd seen every type of threat a bar could throw at me. Fights, knives, guns, stampedes, panic. What I hadn't learned yet was that the most dangerous people don't cause scenes. They wait. It was a Tuesday night. Slow, quiet, almost boring. The kind of shift bouncers secretly love because nothing ever happens, and closing time sneaks up on you gently. Only about 20 people in the bar. Mostly regulars. Pool league night. The bartender knew everyone's drink by heart. That's when he walked in. He didn't fit, mid-40s, clean clothes, calm posture, no rush. He looked more like someone waiting for a bus than someone going out for drinks. He made eye contact when I checked his ID, too much eye contact, and smiled politely. "Just water," he told the bartender. That was the first red flag. People who come to bars and don't drink aren't always dangerous, but when you've worked long enough, you learn to notice patterns. He chose a stool near the end of the bar, back to the wall, full view of the room. He didn't touch his phone, didn't flirt, didn't talk, just watched. An hour passed, then 2. Pool balls cracked, laughter echoed. Music stayed low. The man stayed still. I leaned toward the bartender. "You know him?" She shook her head. "Nope, been nursing that water for over an hour." At 10:15 p.m., a young woman came in alone. Hoodie, jeans, tired eyes. She ordered a beer and sat 3 stools away from him. That's when he moved. Not toward her. Closer to the center of the bar. Like he wanted to be nearby without being obvious. He didn't speak to her, just listened. She laughed at something the bartender said. He smiled. Something in my stomach twisted. I repositioned myself closer, pretended to straighten a chair, watched reflections in the mirror behind the bar. He kept glancing at her drink, her hands, her face. At 10:40 p.m., she went to the bathroom. He stood up immediately, didn't rush, didn't look around, just followed. I was on him in seconds. "Bathrooms for customers only," I said casually, stepping between him and the hallway. He stopped, smiled again, calm. "I am a customer." "Bathrooms closed for cleaning," I lied. He nodded. "No problem," and sat back down. 5 minutes later, the woman returned and picked up her beer. I saw his hand move. Subtle, smooth, too smooth. I knocked the glass over before she could lift it. Beer spilled everywhere. "Sorry about that," I said quickly. "On the house." She looked annoyed but relieved. The man didn't react. That's when I knew. I leaned in close to him, voice low. "You need to leave." He finally looked surprised. "Why?" "Now." For the first time all night, something cracked in his expression. Not anger, not fear, disappointment. He stood slowly. Too slowly. As he walked past me, he whispered, "You ruined it." I followed him outside. "Do not come back," I said. He nodded again, like he understood, like he agreed. But before he walked away, he said something I'll never forget. "She would have trusted me." Then he disappeared into the parking lot. I went inside, shaking. We dumped the woman's drink, told her there was an issue with the keg. I didn't explain further. She laughed it off and finished her night. I thought that was the end. It wasn't. 2 weeks later, his face appeared on the local news, arrested in another city, charged with assault, drugging drinks, multiple victims. Surveillance footage showed him sitting in bars, ordering water, watching, waiting. They called him patient. I recognized the smile instantly. Police came to our bar the next day asking questions. They told me he'd been caught because one bartender noticed a spill on a drink and stopped a woman from drinking it, just like I had. That night, I sat alone after closing, lights off, bar silent. I realized something terrifying. If I'd been distracted, if I'd looked away, if I'd trusted the calm, someone's life would have changed forever. People think bouncers stop fights. Sometimes, we stop monsters. And sometimes, the only difference between safety and tragedy is a spilled drink.
Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed this video, remember to hit the like button and subscribe to my channel. Don't forget to tap the notification bell so you'll be the first to know when a new video drops. Until next time, my friends.